Whenever you speak truth about a narcissist in your life, pay attention to who starts questioning you, because that will expose the other narcissists in your life. So I got married at 28 and I'm now officially divorced at 30. Part 13. So what has happened since I last updated you guys? Well, one, I'm officially divorced as of last month, and today I received a letter via FedEx from my father. You guys already know that I come from a narcissistic family unit. I have not heard from my father ever since he filed that false police report. He sent police to my house, pretending to be my mother, claiming that I expressed a desire to self-harm, despite the fact that both he and my mother had been blocked. He wanted to scare me and intimidate me for speaking truth about my divorce, and also for speaking about his narcissistic ways as well. I wanted to share some parts of this with you guys because thousands of you guys have reached out to me expressing a desire to speak up about the narcissistic abuse you faced in your own families, in your own relationships. But a lot of you have told me that you're scared of what your family will say to you, what they'll say about you. And those are honestly valid concerns. I've chosen transparency about my story, about dealing with a narcissist, about my narcissistic family, because I want to be transparent and to help others who are dealing with the same situation. In this letter, it's 4 pages long. I'm not going to read every single thing. I'm going to show you guys the gaslighting, the love bombing, the kinds of things that narcissists will say once you have exposed them. He wrote this letter and he signed his name and my mother's name, but it's in his handwriting. He's been speaking on her behalf and speaking for her and trying to control her for as long as I can remember. But again, this is the same man who filed a false police report pretending to be my mother, claiming that I expressed a desire to self-harm. So if he could pretend to be her then, you know, who knows? So of course he starts off really nicely. This is what they're going to do. He says, "You're our only daughter and we love you." Now this is just a lie, particularly from my father's perspective. My father was barely involved in my life. He's aware of this. His whole family is aware of this. For those of you who don't know, I am from Jamaica. He moved to America when I was 4, right? So for most of my life, I did not live with my father. I lived with my mother. He would call me like on my birthday, but like that was about it. He was not emotionally available. He was barely involved in my life at all. If you were to ask him anything about me, he wouldn't be able to answer it because he doesn't know me. He's never taken the time to get to know me. I know that's not true. He knows that's not true. But of course, that's what they're going to try to do, to silence you and to guilt trip you about speaking truth. He had hoped things would be handled with privacy and grace, but instead you took to social media to criticize and slander your mother. The next thing he says in the next paragraph is, "We were also deeply uncomfortable with the way your wedding was carried out because you chose to present yourself in a way that did not reflect the values of modesty, dignity, and honor that we raised you with." So now he's telling me that he did not like my wedding dress. He also makes a remark that some of the friends you associated with at that time and continue to keep close are not people of sound character. So now he's criticizing friends. This part I love the most. So he's a pastor. He pastors 2 churches. So he preaches the gospel, but he does not practice what he preaches. So he says, "As your father and as a minister of the gospel, you have lost your way. The public attacks and social media status is not the life God called you to." So now he's taking jabs at my career. Remember, I previously told you that he told my friend that my career, he thinks it's corn because I'm an influencer. Then he claims that my ex-husband shared his side of the story with him and that my ex-husband was honest about his own imperfections. Now, I would not call marriage fraud imperfections, right? That's very generous to call marriage fraud imperfections. And he claims that my ex-husband is seeking help. That's what he says. Then he says, "Yes, your marriage failed. That is painful, but it's not an excuse to teach others to despise marriage." Again, the gaslighting continues, right? You all know that that is not what I'm doing here. I love love and I love marriage and I will get married again. Absolutely. Not once did I ever imply that my experience is other people's. And he says here, your experience is not everyone's. So by me speaking truth, bringing light to a situation and speaking out about narcissistic abuse, he is trying to tell me that I'm teaching others to despise marriage. That is a type of rhetoric that your narcissistic family is going to try to project onto you when you speak truth. They're going to try to put words in your mouth. Again, my father is a pro manipulator. He's been doing this my whole life. He says that I'm influencing others from a place of hurt, not healing. Again, this is what they're going to do. They're going to try to tell you that you are in pain and that you are hurting. So long as you speak truth, so long as you bring light to a situation, you're coming from a place of pain, you're hurting. No, actually, I'm healing. Because speaking out loud and speaking about the things that you go through out loud, that is how you heal. You do not heal by being quiet and protecting darkness. In the next paragraph, he says this, and this is where he's really trying to guilt me for my professional choices, and he's really trying to get me to second guess myself. He says, "You're brilliant. You were top of your class all through school. You were accepted into law school, something so many prayed for. But instead of pursuing a profession that would have honored God, you chose to become a social media influencer." So again, on another page, bashing my career, trying to make me feel bad about myself. This is what narcissistic parents do. And one thing that you have to remember about a narcissistic parent is they will never see you as an adult. They will always see you as a child. So they're always going to be trying to control you and control your decisions. And you can't make any decisions of your own without them trying to guilt trip you. He says, that is not who we raised you to be. Again, remember that my father also called mental health facilities on me after making a false police report in order to silence me. So I'm going to tell you what he says in the next paragraph. Your mother and I both believe that you need professional help, and we hope and pray that you take that step towards wellness. My father is known for this. So long as you do not fall under his control, so long as you do not bow and bend to whatever he wants you to do, he's going to project mental illnesses onto you. I see nothing in this letter about him taking accountability for filing a false police report or for calling mental health facilities on me in order to silence me. He says, because you're on social media and because you're a social media influencer and because you are speaking truth about your situation and about us, you need professional help. The next thing he says is, Christine, we are disappointed deeply. He keeps trying to emphasize his disappointment because he believes that I want his approval. And the thing about it is, when you have narcissistic parents, for so much of your life, you live for their approval, for their applause. But I am no longer that little girl. I'm a grown woman. I'm 30 years old. I make my own money. I live my own life. I have my own career. For somebody like him to be disappointed in me, I'm so proud of myself. Because I want to be nothing like this man. This man is not a good man. He goes on stage in front of his congregations every Sunday and he preaches the gospel of Christ and he lives nothing like Christ. As you can see, he's a manipulator. He's a liar. And it's so sad that you call yourself a pastor and a minister of the gospel, but you take no accountability for your behavior towards me and how you've treated me. He even says, and yes, we forgive you. Forgive me? Forgive me for speaking the truth about you? Make it make sense. Do you realize the level of delusion this man is in? That he forgives me for speaking the truth about him. And on the last page, there's a Bible verse, Isaiah 1:18, and he writes a prayer. Again, no accountability on his part. Of course, he really wanted to make sure that I got this letter because he sent it overnight via FedEx. So when narcissistic people can't control you, they're going to try to control other people's perceptions of you. Because of the fact that I've used my platform to uplift women, this is just what I do. All of my content is about uplifting and motivating women through finances, beauty, lifestyle, whatever it is. So many women who are dealing with narcissistic men, narcissistic husbands, whatever it might be, narcissistic families, have come to my page because this is a safe place for them to talk about their experiences and to get support from others in the comments. Just know that whenever you do speak out about the narcissistic abuse within your family, especially if it's been something that is long-standing within your family, and especially if you're dealing with a narcissist who has gotten away with that kind of behavior for so long, so somebody like my father, keep in mind, this man is going to be 65 next week on November 29th, bullying his daughter, using scripture to manipulate her and trying to silence her by projecting mental health illnesses onto her. He spends a lot of time in his letter to me gaslighting me about my career choice, telling me that I got into law school, but instead I decided to become a social media influencer. But you know what? I'm honest with myself and I live in truth. The difference between me and a lot of lawyers is that I hold people accountable in real life every single day. I don't care who you are. I hold people accountable. And that includes my father. I hold him accountable. He is too grown for this childish behavior. My father keeps forgetting that I am not my mother. My mother is the woman that you married, that you've been able to control and keep silent for all these years. And I'm the woman that God gave you. I'm your karma because I speak truth. I don't let him get away with his nonsense. I hold him accountable. And I'm sharing all this with you live as it happens. Exposure is truly the best thing you can do when you have a narcissist attacking you. And social media is one of the best ways to do it. You guys now know that if anything should happen to me, you know that my father sent me a letter. You're aware of it. And that's the beauty of social media, and that's the beauty of telling somebody and speaking truth. Because should anything happen to you, there is actually documentation of who's been attacking her, who's been harassing her, and you have evidence of that. So if nothing else, you have documented in a place where it's permanent. You have spoken truth on the internet. I hope that you guys realize from my story time that once you expose a narcissist, once you expose just one narcissist, it could be your partner, it could be your parent, whoever it is, other narcissists are triggered. Because I spoke truth about my experience in marriage and I highlighted the narcissistic personality traits about this man, my father was triggered. That triggered him into his own narcissistic collapse. Anyone who tries to silence you when you're speaking truth about your experiences of abuse at the hands of a narcissist or anyone, period, is very likely a narcissist themselves, and that is exactly how you can tell. And if they're not a full-blown narcissist, they're an enabler of narcissism. A lot of us from Caribbean families, a lot of us who are pastors' kids, a lot of us were born into narcissistic family systems. I've seen thousands of your comments, thousands of your DMs. Do not feel alone in this, okay? This is something that, as you can see, I am currently still going through. You'd think that the one person who's supposed to protect me, my father, would try to be there for me and be a source of support instead of trying to gaslight me and control me and silence me for speaking out about the abuse that I faced. Don't let anybody try to tell you how to heal. If you need to speak about it to heal it, speak about it. We all need to speak in order to heal. Talk about it. You have to verbalize what you've been through. When you keep your pain to yourself and you don't actually process it, before you know it, you are becoming a narcissist yourself. I see my father for exactly what he is. He's a wounded child. He went through trauma as a child and he never healed his trauma. I recognize it in the man that I married. They're just wounded children who never did the proper healing. And I have no hatred in my heart for them. I have pity more than anything else. I really wish them healing. I do. I pray that they will one day talk about whatever trauma they went through in their childhoods, that they will actually face themselves and deal with that trauma instead of projecting that pain onto other people. When you're dealing with a narcissist, exposure is really the only way to hold them accountable in some sense, because they tell lies to themselves constantly. People who can lie to themselves like that, they lie to others because that is all they do. They can't live in truth and in honesty. And again, if you're dealing with somebody around my father's age, there's very little that you can tell somebody at that age to get them to change their ways because they're set in their ways. So all you can do really is pray for them and wish them the best. I truly do wish him healing and I truly do wish him peace, but I have to protect my peace. And that might involve sending him a cease and desist letter and also filing a restraining order against him. I say all this to say people are going to silence you by any means possible. They're going to try to make you feel bad about your career choices. They're going to try to project pain and hurt onto you, despite the fact that you're healing and doing well. They're going to do anything to make you feel bad and guilt trip you into falling in line. That is just what narcissistic families do. That is just what narcissistic people do. And one thing I really do hope that you take from this series is seeing narcissism for what it is. Don't allow the narcissists in your life to affect you. Don't allow them to stir up your emotions and get you worked up. That is exactly what they want because they're here to drain you of your energy. See them for what they are. Block them. And if you need to file restraining orders and send cease and desist letters, do what you have to do because it's actually vampiric what they're trying to do. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for sharing your stories. Take care of yourself, recognize narcissism for what it is, and expose the narcissist. Stay healthy and wealthy.